Hello, hello. My name is April Malone with Yes, I Work From Home, and this is the podcast. Today I have Julia Baldwin Taylor with us, and she's coming from Colorado. Tell us, Julia, about your lifestyle. How did you get working from home? What's happening now?
So I've actually worked from home for a very long time. I started working from home in 2006. I was an employee at a company, an internet marketing company, and I wanted to move about 90 minutes away. And I asked them if I could work 2 days in the office and commute those 2 days and then work from home the rest of the days. And I ended up staying in that company for 7 more years. And I gradually moved to full on work from home at the very end. So that ended in about 2014. I worked for another company for a little while, also working full time from home. And then I decided to take the plunge and start my own business in the summer of 2014. So that was about 7 years ago, and I've never looked back.
Wow. So let's go back to the begin. Let's go back to the beginning. I want to hear a little bit about how you negotiated with your boss for that work from home hybrid thing.
hmm Well, fortunately, there was another person in my department who had done it a couple months before. So they did kind of pave the road for me, which was very nice. But I basically said, I've already proven to you that I am very productive, like I'm very independent, you can rely on me, and basically sold myself and said, like, this is where, this is the geographic location that is going to make me the happiest. And that's where I want to be. And, I would love to work out a situation where we can have the best of both worlds. And we did it.
Good. And was that your idea, the 2 days versus 3 days or however, or did they kind of put that on you? Like, we would like to see you at least 2 days.
Oh gosh, it was so long ago. I think it was my idea, but I think it was sort of modeled after what my coworker
Mm-hmm.
had done. So yeah, I think it was just like, this seems reasonable. Like, I can do this. I can drive 90 minutes twice a week. That's no big deal.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of what's happening right now. I think with the pandemic changing everyone's, work site to home, people are moving out of the cities, and so that's kind of happening. What prompted you to move 90 miles away?
I actually moved from one small mountain town to another small mountain town in
Okay.
Colorado. I'm a big skier, and I had lived in the town. I still live in the town, Breckenridge. I had lived in the town for about a year and a half, just fell in love. Then I moved for the job to this other town, didn't
Mm-hmm.
fall in love with that town. And the first town just felt like home. And, I've been there ever since. So it's been 17 years since I've lived in Breckenridge. So I just felt pulled. I just felt called. And, I think there was a reason for it, because a couple of years after I did that, not even a couple of years, I guess it was just about a year after I moved back to Breckenridge, I met my husband.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yep. I moved away to work from home 9 hours south of where I grew up in Minnesota to be in warmer territory. And I think I met my husband about a year and a half later. Yeah, it was worth it.
Cool.
Well, and then you said you did another thing for a little while. What was the middle thing before you started your more entrepreneurial?
Similar position. I had been in web design at the first company that I was at for 8 years total. And then I moved into more of a development role at that second company.
And then you went into like online sales?
Yep. So my background is design. I'm a designer, I'm an artist, and I decided to just see what I could do to start creating a physical product business. And I started selling prints online. I started with Etsy, and that slowly but surely picked up some steam. I started making some sales there. So I was pretty quickly able to, make that into a business. But what helped me make that transition, since, I didn't make a full-time income with that overnight, was freelance. So I actually ended up taking on contract work with the first company that I was employed with, plus some additional contracts here and there, just random people that I did web design for or whatever, to help create that bridge income, have that cushion while I was getting the product-based business up and running.
So the lesson here is don't burn your bridges with your
Yes.
previous companies if you can help it. I've heard more than one person say that they got hired back on and to do contract work for them, and that's good. But it says here in your thing that you filled out for me that you got up to 6 figures of passive income. Can you talk about that? That's your first business doing the prints and such, or
Mhm.
something else?
Yeah, the prints, and then that I did add other products like, uh, mugs, totes. I did a stint of t-shirts for a while that just wasn't my passion, so I didn't continue with the t-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
But I I did that business for around 2.5 years, and those first few years were actually pretty. There was a lot of struggle there, and I was hustling really hard trying to make it happen. I wasn't able to quit all that freelance work right away. That I didn't actually really enjoy doing that much. And I actually had a pretty life altering personal event happen to me at the end of 2016, beginning of 2017. So my mom and I were actually both diagnosed with ovarian cancer the same month in
Oh,
January of 2017. And so that just put the brakes on everything. Like that just halted everything and just made me take a really hard look at my life. What was I doing? And really make some serious changes.
and did you have a lot of downtime with like treatments and all of that? Did you have to stop your business entirely at that point?
So I was pretty fortunate. My cancer was very early stage. We caught it very early. I only needed to have surgery. It was a pretty major surgery, but didn't need any other additional treatments. My mom, however, did end up needing chemo. So I did take some time off. I took a couple weeks off where I completely shut down. I didn't work at all. I didn't do anything in the business. I basically put up a message on the website and on the Etsy shop saying, due to an emergency, I'm not taking orders right now. Hopefully, I'll be back soon. And
Mhm.
then after that, after those initial couple weeks of doing nothing, I really just did the bare minimum. Like I stopped trying to grow the business and I just did the bare minimum of fulfilling orders. And the other thing that I did at that point was I made the decision, even though I hadn't grown it to like a full-time income yet, I decided that I needed to start outsourcing my printing and my shipping. So I had been doing all of that myself. All the orders that came in, I mean, sometimes there were 20 or 30 a day. I would print them, I would schlep them to the post office in the snow.
Yep.
And I was like, this is not what I want to be doing. Like this is not my passion. This is not why I started a business. And the other big thing was I wanted to be with my mom. I live in
Yeah.
Colorado. My mom lives in Maryland. My mom was going through treatments and we had both been through like this big traumatic thing, but I just needed to be with her. I needed to be her with her physically, and the
Mhm.
business wasn't allowing me to do that. So that was the first major change that I made in my business model. And when I got to Maryland a couple months later to spend that time with her, I was like, this is it. Like this is what this is about.
Mhm.
This is what life is about, being able to spend time with your loved ones when they're in that darkest hour. And I said, come hell or high water, I'm making this business work and I'm going to make it work in a way that is right for me. And for me, that was 100% remote, 100% virtual.
Okay, yeah. So the physical products, were they drop shipped or you had like a printing service that was also willing to mail them for you?
It is a drop shipping service, yes.
So there's a little bit of a parallel with your story. And part of my story, I didn't personally have cancer, but my mom did right around the same time as you did. And I was pregnant with my third daughter, and I had to hop on a train actually to get back up to Minnesota, where I'm from, 9 hours away. And I still had this physical product business that I was doing. I was selling mason jars with all these little lids and
Mhm.
things. Um, and I was quickly packing myself to get up there to help my mom. I was working with Mayo Clinic at the time, and I was able to get FMLA to be able to take the family medical leave absence, whatever they call it. I think I was gone for about a week or two. But I packed a huge suitcase filled with glass
Oh my
and
gosh.
and just like all these, contraptions that because it was kind of like, rather than me printing my own thing, I was taking other people's products and like piecing them together. So more like a one-stop shop for all the different competing products, the silicone and the glass and the metal, all the different things. But yeah, after that, and having to, again, like you said, like schlepping things in the snow to like a unusual, like a post office that didn't have the correct size boxes and things, I was like, this is for the birds.
Yes, so much. Yes.
Yeah, I think if I would have been able to keep that business after we moved and had the baby when we moved, I basically closed up shop. But yeah, definitely drop shipping is the way to go if you can. Though you do lose some, you lose something, but you gain something, I guess, with that.
Well,
S
if you don't mind, I'd love to talk about that for a second. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you lose something. I'm assuming you're talking about, part of the profit. But
Mhm.
you also gain something, which is part of the time. But what I like to point out to my clients, and I don't think we mentioned yet that I'm a business coach, but part of what I like to point out to my clients in outsourcing is that it not only frees up your time, but it also frees up your energy. Like when you're doing
Mhm.
something that is just sucking your soul, like schlepping stuff to the post office in the snow, like that
Mhm.
is going to drain your creativity. It's going to drain your inspiration. Like it's a drag, So it's more than just about getting your time back. It's about
Mhm.
preserving your energy so that you can continue to grow the business and
Yeah.
thrive.
Though I think some companies are more conducive to that model. The way that I was doing it, I had sources or things coming in from like 6 or 7 different places, and I would have had to ship again to one place to
Mhm.
assemble things, and it was I picked a kind of a awkward model, and I had 2 babies, and I was putting one on the front and one on the back, and then getting to
Oh
the
my
post
gosh.
office with 2 kids. It was a little wild. But let's talk about now. So, you stopped the physical products more or less, or is that still on the back burner, or is
That's
it
still
still going?
going. So I have a virtual assistant now who handles customer service, processing orders, light design edits,
Mhm.
customizations to products. So that business is very hands off for me. And that's, when you asked me originally a little while ago about 6 figures of passive income, like that's what I'm referring to.
That's the one. Okay.
Yes, yes. I did have a wedding stationery brand for about 2.5 years, and I actually ended up selling that at the beginning of 2020. And that was a similar model. It was also a drop shipping model, but it was a little bit more hands on as far as doing design, customization. I didn't do full on custom design. The way I had it set up was I had basically products for sale, and then people could say, well, I would like to change this. And, if it was included, then it was included. But sometimes I would quote them extra, if they wanted to do something more complex. So it was a little bit more involved, like time wise and energy wise from me than
Mhm.
the first physical product business.
Okay. And you're dealing with brides, and they feel like pressure of the deadlines, and it has to be perfect. Is it a little bit different set
Yeah.
of expectations?
It's funny. You've probably heard the expression, the riches are in the niches. So I had a pretty specific niche with my stationery. I live in a mountain town in Colorado. This is a huge destination for weddings here.
Okay.
Uh, but my niche was mountain weddings. So all of my stuff was mountain themed, and I tended to attract a very laid back bride, which was
That's
pretty
cool.
great.
I love it. So let's talk about now. You are a business coach, and that's like your front thing. That's what you're
Yep.
leading with now.
That's
Talk
the
about it.
my main focus at the moment. That's what I'm most excited about. So last year I got certified as a transformational coach. Started out doing more general life coaching, but just realized how much I love helping people with their businesses. And, I've had certainly a long entrepreneurial journey, made a lot of mistakes along the way, and learned so much. And I I love working with entrepreneurs specifically. And a big piece of that is mindset. A big piece of that is manifestation. I'm all about helping entrepreneurs really master their inner game, master what's going on inside of their head, master their emotions, basically, really have a mastery of themselves so that they are poised for growth, not only personally, but in their business as well.
So mindset stuff.
Hmm. Yeah.
And let's talk about that a little bit. How has that changed your daily workflow now that you're a business coach? What does your day revolve around?
So, the way I have set up my coaching business, and I have heard of other coaches doing this, but not everyone necessarily does it. And it wasn't till I heard about somebody else doing it that I was like, oh, I can do that too. So, maybe if you have any coaches in the audience, this will inspire them. But I set up my client calls so that they are every other week. I don't coach every single week, and they're only 3 days a week. So basically, 6 days out of a given month, I am on coaching calls live with clients. They do have access to me otherwise, but
Hmm.
I set it up so that I have a certain response time that they expect. So I get to respond basically within that time frame. So, it's around 24 hours, certain days of the week. So, as you've probably already inferred from our conversation so far, like, freedom is my number one value. And I really built this coaching business with the consciousness of wanting that freedom and building that freedom from the very beginning, because I didn't start my first business with that in mind.
Hmm. Right. I get it. I've been rather tied to my desk, every single week for years on end with very few vacations. And so I'm really curious about what I read your profile and what you wrote in my questionnaire form thing. Sounds like you have built not just a few weeks of freedom into each month, but also a couple of months of freedom into each year. Can you talk a little bit about what that looks like for you?
Hmm. Yeah, so my husband is actually a college professor, so he gets summers off. He gets a decent amount of time off at the holidays. And back when I was an employee, I was always working through all that, and I was
Yep.
always like, "Well, wait a second, you're going to go do fun stuff without me." So I knew that that was needed to be a priority in my business for me. So I think it's just, it's a decision. It's just a decision to say, like, I'm going to do it my way. And that's the beautiful thing about being an entrepreneur, is you get to make up the rules. You don't have to follow an employer's rules for you, which is really awesome. So basically, to make it boil it down really simply, with both businesses, all three businesses, the original e-commerce business and the wedding stationery and now the coaching, basically, my philosophy is, when I'm not traveling, when I'm here in Breckenridge, I am working on the business and in the business. And then when I'm on the road, I'm only working in the business. So that looks like now coaching clients. In the wedding stationery business, that looked like processing orders, emailing with brides, making the customizations, sending everything to the printer. Um, Doing tasks that were directly tied to revenue and not necessarily growth minded.
Got it. So if you're traveling, you're just basically trying to keep your well-oiled machine running.
Yes,
Okay.
definitely keeping the machine running, um, keeping in touch. And I think it's also about, like, not just keeping in touch with clients, but also feeling connected to the purpose behind it. And this is big in what I do now in the coaching, especially. So I mentioned that I sold the wedding stationery business at the beginning of 2020. My husband and I were in the middle of a 3-month sabbatical. It was actually supposed to be an 8-month sabbatical, but the pandemic had other plans for us. And so we had been traveling in South America, and I wrapped up the sale of the wedding stationery business just as we were getting ready to leave South America and go to New Zealand. And I was excited to go to New Zealand, but I there was this strange, it took a while for me to identify it, but there was actually this strange, like, emptiness of not having a purpose anymore, because I didn't have that connection with my brides anymore. Like, I love my wedding
Mm,
stationery business, but I knew that this bigger thing was coming. Like, I didn't know how to articulate it at the time, but that is what the coaching business turned out to be.
okay.
And so, yeah, I just really, I've learned about myself that time off is amazing. And I love to have time off where I'm not working at all. But for me, there's a threshold after about a month or so. Like, I need to have a purpose and I need to feel connected to that purpose.
Mhm.
So even if that's only 5 hours a week of work, that's fulfilling to me. So I make that a
Mhm.
priority.
I get it. Did you get to go to New Zealand?
We did go to New Zealand, yeah. And we were there when things really started to get crazy. The US shut traffic down between Europe and the US. And yeah, so we weren't sure what we were going to do, but we made a pit stop in Hawaii for a week, and then we came home to Breckenridge after that.
Okay, so you didn't get stuck there because I know they got pretty serious about their quarantines and such.
Right. Well, we had been there for so long, the virus wasn't there when we got there. So, we wouldn't have had to have quarantined because we'd
Okay.
already been there for so long. But,
Okay, good.
my mom was sick, and we just decided we needed to get back stateside so that,
Mhm.
we didn't know what the future held. So we felt like it was a good decision for us to just go be in our hometown. In Hawaii, there were like riots against tourists, and we were like, oh, maybe it's time to go.
Oh boy. So when did you finally land home?
I think it was March 25th. So we were
Okay.
about 10 days behind, like, the really beginning of the crazy.
Mhm. It sounds like a lot going on. Do you anticipate trying to hit the road again sometime soon?
Absolutely. Yeah. We have plans to take off in our RV in mid July. We'll be traveling for 5 or 6 weeks until my husband has to go back to school to teach.
Have you done the whole RV thing in the past?
Yes, we actually just recently upgraded from a camper van to an RV. So technically not in an RV specifically, but we have traveled and worked from the road in our camper van for several summers in a row, and also sporadic, couple weeks here and there in the spring and the fall. We like to go to Arizona um, and Utah to go biking. So yeah, we try to get out on the road as much as we can.
I kinda wanna pick your brain about a few different things, but can we talk about camper vans for a little while?
Yeah, yeah.
I I've recently, I think in the last week or 2, maybe 3 weeks ago, I got into, like, a Google image search thing on camper vans and just like, oh my goodness, they have changed so much, and there's so many things you can do inside of a van. So, can you tell us about your old camper van?
Yeah, so we bought a empty cargo shell. It was a Dodge Ram ProMaster, and we thought we were going to build it out ourselves, but we quickly learned that we didn't have a lot of the skill set, and we could have learned, but we just decided we wanted to get this thing done as quickly as possible. So we ended up uh, working with a local carpenter, a friend or a husband of a woman that my husband works with. That was really confusing.
It's all good.
And he did an amazing job. So we had a little kitchen with a sink and just a camp stove, not a built-in stove.
Okay.
We had a platform bed, and we're big mountain bikers, so we actually had our mountain bikes stored underneath the bed, and they were on a tray, so we could pull them in and out really easily. Uh, what else do you want to know about it?
Was there a toilet? Was there a shower?
Nope. Nope.
Hmm.
And pre-pandemic, how we handled that was, most of the time we're on BLM land, we're on national forest land, public land. So not a big deal to go outside. We did carry a porta potty with us for emergencies, and we would just go at coffee shops, on the road or gas stations or whatever, not a big deal. And then
Hmm.
showering wise, we would not shower every day, but we would go to like the YMCA or rec centers, or occasionally we'd go to like a hot springs that had showers, that kind of thing. So that's how we took care of it in the van.
Hmm. And then, how did you feel when you said goodbye to the van and upgraded?
It was kind of bittersweet. We have a lot of amazing memories in that van. We've been to like 17 states, a couple of Canadian provinces. So it was a little bit sad, but I also knew that we were upgrading, of course, to something bigger and better. I mean, it's not actually that much bigger. It's only about 4 feet longer than the van was, but we spent this winter, we spent more time in the van than we ever had. And even when you're somewhere wonderful in the wintertime, like Southern Arizona, the days are still really short. And our van was dark. It only had one window on the side in addition to the cab.
Okay.
So I was like, I just want something that has more natural light. I want a workspace. I didn't have a table in there. I was always balancing the laptop on my lap, which was no fun. And I want a bathroom. I'm 40 years old. Like, I want to feel like an adult.
Yep. We installed a toilet in the back of our van this past year at Christmas time. Actually, I think we were going to go out and go Christmas lighting. So my mom, after she had her surgery, she had colon cancer. And with that comes some, repercussions, right? And she was going to drive back with us one time when we came up for my brother's wedding, and she got into the van and she drove home with me because we had to fly my husband back for work. And I have 3 kids, and it was going to be a long 30-plus hour trip by myself with these 3 kids. And so, for our potty training child and for my mom and for all of us, me too, we put in that little, it's just like a tripod style
Yeah.
camper, not camper, but like a camping toilet that
Hmm.
has like the plastic bag, which
Hmm.
not very eco-friendly, I guess. But
Sure.
man, oh man, we didn't use it. We didn't use it at all on that trip, and we didn't use it for like 3 more years. And then finally, has that been 3 years? Maybe 2 years. At Christmas, I'm like, oh, we have this thing, and we don't have to try to go in, to anyone's
Hmm.
public bathroom, which most of them were closed during the pandemic. So I was like, I don't know what we're going to do. We've got this little one who doesn't hold it for very long. So that has been kind of a godsend for our family, just having
Yeah.
the peace of mind knowing that, even if the pandemic has changed a lot of things, we can still go out and be in nature. We went to Flagstaff and we went sledding. We never had to go in.
Nice.
We all had this thing. So it was pretty great. So
Yeah,
now you've got,
we
yeah, go
took
ahead.
our we took our van to Wolf Creek ski area, which is a ski area about 3 hours from where we live. And same thing, like you could not go in the lodge. Colorado was very strict about what you could do in restaurants, in lodges, in public places. You could order food and eat it outside, but when it's
Yep.
15 degrees out, you don't want to do that. So the van was,
Right.
like you said, it really was a godsend to have heat and
Yeah.
a place to take off your ski boots for a little bit and not be
Hmm.
freezing. It was really nice.
Yeah. So now that you're upgrading to something a little bit bigger, and how big is this new one?
It's 24 feet.
And how big is that in the grand scheme of like RVs? Because I don't even know. Is that considered like medium, long, extra long?
That's a good question. I'm definitely not an RV expert. I would say that they call it like a B plus, class B plus. I would say it's on the smaller side of medium.
Okay. But for 2 people, do you have any animals that you're traveling with?
We don't, but we know a lot of folks that have camper vans and small RVs like we do that travel with two big dogs or even cats. So
Mhm.
people do it.
Yeah, I'm not gonna ever be one of those people. I think when we say goodbye to our cat someday, then we will be done with animals because it makes it easier to travel if you don't have to worry about boarding, and cats don't travel as well as dogs.
Mhm.
Um, will it open up the opportunity for you to travel with anyone now that you've got this extra space? Is there a guest bed in your RV or no?
Not really. There is one that probably could fit a child, but we're not having children. So maybe my nephew at some point. He's
Yeah,
5. We'd love to
yeah,
have him come and stay with us at some point. So maybe that'll happen in the next few years before he gets too big.
yeah, yeah. That sounds good for sure. And so it's basically just right for you guys.
Mhm.
Um, as you're growing your business, how will you manage keeping yourself down to those 5 hours a week, or are you comfortable with more than that when you're traveling?
That's a great question, and it's something I'm still figuring out. And sometimes I do work more. Sometimes I work 10 hours. Sometimes I work 15 hours when we're on the road. I just try to really plan my schedule ahead of time. And I actually am planning on taking a month off while we're traveling this summer. So it's actually like 3.5 weeks where I won't be coaching clients. So I will get a true vacation in there. So just planning.
And you said that you have a VA that you've been working with. Has this VA seen you through these iterations of your, business and development?
I actually have 2 VAs, and one of them, yes, she's been with me for almost 2 years now. So I love her because she has taken these things off my plate that allow
Mhm.
me to keep on growing and exploring other things that I'm passionate about, such as the coaching.
Can you see yourself continuing to grow your team, or are you at a sweet spot right now?
I'm open to it. I mean, I just hired a second VA about 2.5 months ago, and she's amazing as well. Um, I could see, I do like weekly videos on YouTube and IGTV. Like I edit them myself, so I could definitely see hiring somebody to do the editing. Just keep on outsourcing little by little.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, I'm totally open to it. I don't have a specific vision about having like a large team.
What about when you are at home? What are the things that you are taking on now that you don't take on when you're on the road? You said that you work on your business and in your business when you're at Breckenridge. Did I say it right? Breckenridge?
Yeah,
Okay.
you did say it correctly. It's really like I said before, it's really about growth. It's really about attracting new clients. It's about doing events. Like I am doing workshops pretty regularly in partnership with other organizations. I am appearing on podcasts, um, writing articles, uh, filming videos, all these growth minded things to attract more people into my sphere, which I really take a break from when I'm on the road.
How do you notify your clients that you won't be able to do your regularly scheduled coaching call if you're going to be gone for 3.5 weeks instead of just two?
So they're really just missing, not, and I shouldn't say missing. Um, we're just pushing out their sessions. They do a package with me,
Okay.
minimum of 6 sessions. And
Okay.
for anybody that I signed after May 1st this year, I just said, this is coming. Um, there's going to be this chunk of time in the summer. I don't know exactly when. And they're like,
Hmm.
awesome. Like that gives me more time to just work
Right.
on things.
Or
They
to vacation
actually,
themselves.
right. Yeah. I mean, they like it. So I attract people who also have the value of freedom. So they get it,
Hmm.
they appreciate it, and they like it.
I can see that kind of package giving more freedom than we're going to have a coaching call on the second Tuesday of every month because then you're stuck at home. I like that model. It's good.
Mhm.
I kind of want to change gears. We can come back to these things if you want to keep going, but I want to talk a little bit about physical products. Not that you sell, but things that you have used. if we go way back to the beginning when you were working for an employer, two different employers, did they send you home with office equipment, or did you have to supply your own as soon as you got home? Because that was your choice to go home, not theirs.
Well, that was an evolving thing. That was so long ago. It was 15 years ago. I mean, it was like the
Yep.
stone age of working from
Yep.
home, right?
Yeah. I started in 2008, so I hear you.
Right off the bat, I actually purchased my own laptop. I had a desktop at work. I had a desktop at home, but I knew I needed something to go back and forth.
Hmm.
And that was part of, I guess, promoting myself when I said, okay, I want to do this thing. I want to work from home. I have this laptop. I would never recommend somebody do that now. I would definitely recommend somebody negotiate that they get a computer from
Right.
the workplace. And that did happen for me about a year after that.
Okay.
My boss did my annual review and she's like, wait a second, you're still working on your own machine. Like, we're going to change that. We're going to get you your own machine. And that definitely
Hmm.
makes, IT support so much easier when you're working on their machine versus your
Right.
own.
Right. I can see there being a few security questions about that too. When I got sent home with the computer, they had their own Cisco box and VPNs and all these different things that we were using to make sure that it was a very secure connection.
Mhm.
Were you allowed to work in a coffee shop? Did you have freedom of your location, or did you have to work from home or the office?
Oh gosh, I'm trying to remember. I definitely did work in other places. I mean, it wasn't as free as my lifestyle is now. But yeah, I would work in coffee shops sometimes. I would go to the co-working space. I did that for a number of years, and that was more just for the social benefit of being around
Mhm.
other work from home employees and getting to know other folks who were like me in the area.
Yeah.
Um,
And
gosh.
then and then you switched companies.
I switched companies. They provided, and that was 2014. So then we were talking about, much more evolved, I guess, work from home practices. But yeah, they
Mhm.
they supplied me with a computer right off the bat. And yeah, we would sometimes, they were actually a local company, but we still all worked from home. There was no physical office. It was distributed, even though there were only about 4 or 5 of us.
Oh,
So
really?
so
So a completely
sometimes
different model.
yeah, so sometimes we would just go to a coffee shop and work together for a few hours.
That's really cool, including, was there a manager or was it just a team?
Yeah, I was an owner slash manager. Yeah, sometimes I would meet up with him and we would just get lunch or something and jam out a couple hours of work together.
Okay, cool. And then you started working for yourself,
Mhm.
and you already had your old laptop, or had you upgraded by then?
At that point, when I took the plunge and I was like, okay, I'm committed to making this business work, then I bought a brand new MacBook Pro.
Yep, that's what I'm on right now.
Yeah, and it was awesome. I mean, I one of the things I've always loved about the MacBook Pro is the Retina screen. Like, as you know, obviously, I love to work in all kinds of different environments. Sometimes being outside, I like to work
Mhm.
outside when I can if the weather's nice, and the screen is really amenable to that. I'm on my second MacBook Pro now. I unfortunately spilled some wine on the first one.
Oh, no. Oh, before or after the warranty was expiring?
That was before, or that was after I had to, shell out the
Yeah.
cash for a brand new one.
Oh, dear. Oh, man, I have 3 kids, and I have spilled things on my, external keyboard. I spilled coffee, all over it, and
Ugh,
it survived. I just kinda
wow.
shook it out, and I am still actually, my husband's using it. I got a second one, same model. Um,
Sounds
uh,
robust.
yes, it was kind of a miracle, I think, but, yeah, my MacBook Pro, the D key is starting to stick. I can't even see the E on the E key anymore. I mean, I've really used it well.
Well, I will tell you something very fortunate that happened to me recently. My keys were sticking like crazy, and I one day I just was inspired to go Google it. Like, is this a known issue? Turns out it was. I contacted them. I sent in the laptop for them to fix it, and they basically, did a full, cleanup, of the machine. There was like a couple
Mm.
other problems that they diagnosed that I didn't even realize were a thing. Like my battery had been not holding a charge. Like
Oh, yeah.
I couldn't just leave my laptop unplugged because
Oh, yeah.
it would just die. And
I
they
was doing
fixed
that.
all the issues, and I got a basically brand new machine for
It's like
$0.
refurbished.
Yeah.
Was that under warranty?
I I think because it was like this known issue. I don't know if it was a warranty thing or not. I think I'd had it for about 2.5 or 3 years when that happened. This was just maybe about 6 or 8 months ago. So yeah, I don't think it was warranty, but because it was like this known problem, they fixed it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to call them and be like, "So I had this problem. I think it's a known issue."
Yeah, go for
'Cause
it.
I also need a new battery. Yeah, it's to the point where I've been Googling, like, how much is it gonna cost me to replace a battery in this thing? And I don't think it's something that I can just do myself either. I mean, I'm not savvy enough to be able to I am not brave enough to open up my computer and
That's
try to
certainly
mess
one
around
of
with
the
it.
challenges of being a business owner and not having an IT department that you can just
Right.
call up when you have a problem. It's one of those things you just have to learn to navigate and be okay with.
Mhm. Oh, yeah. When I worked for Mayo, they had a 24/7, IT department, and a lot of them were remote workers as well. I remember one time I called in and there was a problem, and the guy had to come in, and it was like a blizzard, like, of, like, with historic properties, and, like, the bus services were, like, down, and he had to wait, like, for an hour for a bus, and bad, bad, bad. But also, if my computer broke, they would, like, overnight me one. Like, if something broke and it was on, their computer and they needed me to work, I was, like, within 24 hours, I'd have the new piece or the part or the computer. Yeah, I kinda miss those days. There are pros and
Yeah.
cons.
Yeah, after the wine meltdown, I ended up buying a refurbished like $300 PC just to have
A
something
backup.
so that if something happened again, yeah, I would have that backup. I have not ended up using it very much at all, and I think by now it's pretty antiquated and
Right.
probably not usable, but it's
You
probably
know that
time
you
to.
have it.
Yeah, exactly.
Last night I had to use my old iPad. It's like as old as our 9-year-old. But it got me through in a pinch. My computer, apparently it was plugged in, but it must not have been plugged in 100%. My plug fell to the ground and it was just like maybe an eighth of an inch, not all the way plugged in. And apparently it didn't ever charge. And so it took about 10 minutes for it to turn back on. And I was in the middle of a session with a client.
Oh, jeez.
And so thankfully I was able to like get my iPad up and logged into the session that way until my computer finally came back on. Yeah. Sometimes otherwise I'm just on a Chromebook. I mean, my kids have 3 Chromebooks and I can't do a lot of the things I do on a Chromebook, but I can do some things. And
Mhm.
it's just I've learned that if I use my Google login on the Chromebook, it remembers my passwords and my
Right.
like
Right.
bookmarks, and I am thankful for that because I didn't didn't really like the Chromebooks until I realized that they did have that feature. Let's chat a little bit about what you're doing now. Like, what's next? Are you promoting anything? Are you selling anything? Have you written anything? What do you want people to know about what you're doing?
Yeah, so I actually have a fun event coming up next week, June 15th through the 17th. So I mentioned before, one of the core components of my business coaching is teaching my clients about manifestation and how they can learn to use it in really practical ways to grow their businesses. A lot of business coaches, they only teach strategy. They only teach like their one way of growing a successful business, whether that's like through Instagram or SEO or doing cold
Mhm.
calls or
Mhm.
blogging or whatever it is. And what I've learned in my 7 years of this entrepreneurial journey is that it doesn't matter if you take all the courses and learn all the strategies. It doesn't matter if you don't have that, like we talked about before, like that inner game mastered. Manifestation is all about aligning your energy. We talked a little bit about energy before with your really big dreams. It's about connecting with that most impactful, profitable vision that you have for your business and stepping into the version of you that already has the income, already has the impact, and the freedom and just stepping into being that person right now. So the boot camp is going to be super hands-on and interactive. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'm going to be teaching ways to practically apply manifestation in your business, including my favorite number one tool that's helped me and my clients take quantum leaps. Um, and that's, not only in income but also impact and helping people and achieving that freedom that we talked about, and is the reason that we started our businesses, at least most of us, in the first place. So that's coming up next week, like I said, June 15th to the 17th. And if people want to check that out, it's at manifestationbootcamp.net.
.net. Got it. Can you talk a little bit about the difference between mindset and manifestation?
They really go hand in hand. I would say mindset is more of like a component of manifestation. Like if you think of manifestation as more of an umbrella, it just falls under that umbrella. A lot of people, I think, where they get tripped up or confused about what manifestation is they think like, I'm just going to change my thoughts or I'm just going to think about the thing that I want and it's going to appear. But it goes so much deeper than that. It's all about not only the thoughts that you're having, but also the emotions that you're experiencing, the stories that you're telling yourself, the beliefs that you have that you might not even know that you have. You can say you want $1 million business, but if deep down, you believe that, rich people are evil or whatever it is, like, and you don't even know that you have that belief, like, you're never going to get to that $1 million goal. So it's really about, not just the thoughts, but also the emotions and the stories that we're telling ourselves about what's possible for us.
How can people find out more about this?
About the boot
Your boot
camp.
camp. Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, manifestationbootcamp.net is
Mm-hmm.
the specific address for this event that's happening next week.
And is there a better place for people to find you if they wanted to
Mhm.
reach out to you, say perhaps after the boot camp, if they're listening to this podcast in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. My website is just juliabaldwintaylor.com. And then I also hang out on Instagram. That's a great place to find me. You can shoot me a DM if you have any questions about anything. And my handle is Julia Baldwin Taylor.
That's easy. Well, any last thoughts for the people who are thinking about becoming a remote worker or an entrepreneur working from home? Uh, any advice?
I think, as a cliche as it may sound, anything and everything is possible. Like if you have a dream to work from home or work on the road or be a digital nomad or whatever it is, like if you can dream it, it is possible for you. And don't get hung up in like the nitty gritty how of it. Like just keep focusing on that vision, even if it feels really far away, even if you have no idea how you're going to make it happen. Like just keep tuning into this is my future, this is my future. And don't let the stories of like, well, my boss isn't going to let me, or I don't know how to start a business, you know, things like that that are going to hold you back. Don't let those things get in your way. Keep focusing on the vision.
Any advice for people who are not sure about entrepreneurship? Would you recommend doing that transition, working for a company or a boss, and then transitioning into entrepreneurship, or do you encourage people to dive right in?
I would definitely say for folks, and this is for everybody, but specifically folks who aren't interested in it, there's so many different ways that you can just dip your toe in a little bit. You can start a side hustle, you can start an Etsy shop on the side, you can, if you're a designer or a developer or anybody who provides any sort of service, you can dabble with doing that on the side, if there isn't a non-compete with your employer.
Right.
And there's certainly creative ways to work around those non-competes as well. So um, I love to think about things outside of the box, as much as I can. So if somebody is struggling with that, they're welcome to reach out to me either on the website or Instagram, and we can brainstorm.
All right. Well, I love it. Thank you, Julia. Anything that we left hanging that you wanted to get back to before we wrap things up?
No, I think we about covered it. Thanks, April.
All right. Well, thanks so much for coming. This has been April Malone with Julia Baldwin Taylor. Thank you again. All right. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.